I wonder how many of you who are teachers have had this experience. You're at a social occasion, and someone says, you've just met them, they say, "What do you do for a living?" You say, "I'm a teacher." And they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, that's terrible. It's terrible, terrible." They never do that, right? They never ever say that, even if that is what they're thinking. What do they say? "You're a teacher, that's so wonderful. Thank you for your service." Sometimes they even say, "I really believe teachers should be respected more than they are." Or, "I think teachers should be paid more." At which point you're very grateful to be discussing your salary with a stranger. But no matter what very kind things they say, inevitably, it seems tinged with a little guilt, right? As if they know you need some help, right? And then the next question is usually, well, what do you teach? And when I say I teach third grade, invariably a wave of relief goes over their face because I haven't said like physics or algebra or something. And they say something like, "Oh, third graders, they're really nice. Kids are really nice at that age." At which point I surmise they probably have a teenager at home, right? But I bet those of you teaching the upper grades don't get that experience. No one says, "Oh, 14-year-olds, that's such a sweet time of life," right? Because those of you who work with big kids have a very hard job. Those of you who teach kids, some of whom are bigger than you are. I don't really know how you do it. As I understand it, if you're not really entertaining and fun, the kids might just not show up. If you're not funny, they might decide to go smoke in the park instead. And I hear you teach like 150 kids. I have no idea how you do it. But tonight I want to talk about the boundary that I think exists between those of us who teach young children and those of us who teach big kids, because I think there is a real divide there, a really big divide. And I think at MFA we have a real opportunity to cross that divide. And I think it would be really good for us and especially good for the kids if we can. At MFA there are only 50 elementary school fellows, 35 of whom teach math, out of a total of 1,068 fellows altogether. And to me, one of the best things about being a fellow at MFA has been the opportunity to talk to teachers who teach big kids. But I have been completely alarmed by many of the things I've heard. I had a college math professor tell me that his kids in his college course could not picture fractions. I've heard middle school teachers say their kids can't factor numbers, and science teachers say their kids are struggling with reading. And when I hear that, I feel it right here, because that's what I teach. Those things are on the third grade curriculum. My kids should be able to picture fractions. I teach division facts. And of course, I teach reading. So I don't think this is a surprise to any of us. I think, we know the statistics. These are our city's scores in 5th grade on the math test. And to me, the shocking thing about these, it isn't even that more than half of the kids are below grade level. It's the huge number that are far below grade level, in the lowest quadrant. Because to be a 1 by age 10, it speaks for itself, right? And nationally, of course, the picture is equally disturbing. This is an international assessment. The US is the bottom bar there, and most of the other countries listed there are the East Asian countries who are not just ahead of us, they are far ahead of us. And you can see Kazakhstan is up there too, and they're ahead of us. So we know all this. This is our field. This is what we do. We know the statistics, but what can we do in this situation? So I think that, I know all of you have super hard jobs. Those of you who teach big kids, you have a huge, huge, very, very difficult job. But if those of you who teach in the upper grades could get involved in the shaping of elementary education, math education, I think it would be incredible. I really do. Because we need to know from you exactly what the issues are. We know they have gaps, but you guys are the experts in which of the gaps are critical for their success moving forward. What exactly is it that stops them from moving on. Because we teach a lot of things. But maybe we need to do things differently. Maybe we should focus much more on division facts early on. Maybe it's something simple like that. Or maybe we should introduce the coordinate plane earlier so it's not so confusing middle school. Or maybe we should do a lot more work with variables. I don't know what the answer is. And it's obviously a really hard problem, but I really think if you guys get involved and you work with us, we could figure it out. And there's so few places like MFA where people on such a huge grade span come together. It's an amazing opportunity. I just want to take a little time tonight. I think crossing any boundary between people, I think the first step is to get to know one another. So I want to talk a little bit about what it's like to be an elementary school teacher. I have been extremely fortunate in my career. I teach at an amazing school with really smart administrators. I've been there for 18 years, and I've loved it. I love my job. I'm going to show you a few shots of third graders so you just can picture how fabulous it is. So you see they have funny hats. They're a lot of fun. They're really great. We go to the park. It's one of the great things about teaching little kids. You get to leave the building with them and take them all sorts of great places. This is they're very cute. This is the room where I've been for 18 years, since September 2001, actually. And it's a great place to work. But I'll tell you, being a woman in the year 2019 who spends all day with small children, it's a really weird job. It's a really weird job. It's like we're existing in this strange little bubble within the larger society. I spend a lot of time mothering these kids. Like when they get stuck in their jackets, I have to unstick their jacket zippers, or they can't move on through the day. And I teach them where to put their gloves, stick them in their pockets so they don't get lost at recess. I'm always dealing with comforting a child who's sad, or dealing with fluids. There are always fluids in the classroom. You turn around, there's applesauce on the floor, or a juice box has exploded in a lunchbox, or a kid has a bloody nose, and they're 8, so they don't know what to do about a bloody nose. It's a very, very physical job, teaching small children. And I called that mothering for a reason. And that's the thing people don't talk about much about elementary school teaching, and that is that 94% of American elementary school teachers are women. So the elephant in the room about elementary school teachers is we're working in this weird feminine ghetto. The expectations that we have for elementary school teachers are based on very traditional expectations of female virtues. We are expected to be nurturing and kind. We're expected to speak in low voices. And we're expected to smile. We're expected to be available for the parents to talk to, be sociable and collaborative. We're expected to comfort parents when they get upset. And we are expected to have all of the organizational abilities of Betty Crocker. We scrub tables. We dust book bins. We decorate. Should anyone walk into our room, they should be greeted with a smile and beautiful multiple walls of bulletin boards. My very, very first year teaching, I just graduated from college. I was 22. I was working in a very good Manhattan private school as an assistant teacher. And obviously it must have been a private school if they had assistant teachers, because that's not a thing in public school, right? And there was another assistant teacher who worked in a different classroom down the hall with a different head teacher. And that head teacher required her assistant to come every single morning, every day of the week, at least a half an hour early. It might have actually been an hour early every single morning, to stand beside the head teacher, and together they would scrub every single desk in that classroom with some sort of scouring powder like Ajax. And this young woman had just graduated from Harvard, and that was her last year teaching. I'm sure teaching teenagers is very physical too, in its own way, and I don't know, maybe you guys scrub tables too. I don't actually even know if you guys scrub tables because there's this divide between us. But I would like to get to know you better People with math expertise are not flocking to become elementary school teachers. And we need to do something to change that. Elementary school teachers need the system to change. We need math expertise to rise way up on the list of what we value in our profession. If we want to change outcomes in math education, we need to look at the earliest grades. We need to look with precision at what is happening in those classrooms, and we need to redefine what is expected of elementary school teachers. I think we really can do that if we work together. If those of you who work with big kids help us, and you can learn from us too, because we could teach you things as well. But I think we really need to work together on this. Working with young children has always been taken for granted, because women's work has always been taken for granted. And I'm sure we can all agree that is not okay. Thank you.